I was guilty, I think, of many of us. I'm guilty is that I was always like just dwelling on the trials and tribulations of the past or the anxiety associated with the future. And I really wasn't present. I wasn't as present in the blessings that I have today. So I think that the one of the more transformational letters for me that really brought me more present in my life and not only my life, but in my wife and my children and my friends. I'm a better husband. I'm a better father. I'm a better friend, better person, for going through that experience. And through this writing this book series, I think gratitude really came to the forefront. And what
I had a conversation with Ed McCarthy, and as you heard, gratitude is such a huge aspect of how he put this book together, but just how he lives in general. If you are a parent, an entrepreneur, a creative, someone who is just looking to explore life and how to find your calling and to lay things out in a way that makes sense for you, this is absolutely the episode. Let's listen in. Hi, thank you so much for joining Creating Connections. My name is Ninden, and today we have an awesome guest with us. Ed McCarthy. I want to give Ed this opportunity to introduce himself and where he's at in life and how those letters apply to where he's currently at.
Yeah, well, thank you, Nan. Thank you so much. And hello, everyone. As Nan implied, my name is Ed McCarthy. I am the best-selling author of this book, Life Letters, Five Decisions to Wealth, Wisdom, and Happiness. You can see here. And that's the primary focus this is this book is broken down into 26 chapters, if you will, or what I call 26 letters that were individually written for my kids after I had a near-death experience, which I can elaborate on. But the whole premise of the book, Life Letters, is really focused on reaching your highest self through the path that I lead through a master plan that we can elaborate on. So that's the book. But I kind of tease you with the near-death experience, and the very long story short is had was married with young kids and went snowmobiling with three other friends, or four of us, and we got ourselves in trouble, backcountry, spent the night, late stage hypothermic, barely survived. A miraculous, truly a miracle happened that saved us, and that was the premise. That was a life altering experience that inspired me to come home. When I came home to my young family, I started to write a letter, literally one-page letter to my children. But that one page turned to 50 pages, turned to 500 pages, and that now has broken down into a three-book series. This book that I just shared, Life Letters, is book one, as it alludes to right there. But I also have book two and book three that's going to come out. Book two will be later this year, and book three the next year. So this has turned into that's something I didn't expect. I never intended to be an author. I was going to be an accidental author. But when I wrote this letter, that I started to see a theme here, and I was like, what am I really trying to say here? Like, I talk about accountability when I was writing to my kids, and then next thing I was like, I struggle fiercely with boredom, so I address boredom. So that's an A and a B, and then next thing you know is career. So I've had a really interesting career, and then I started to write that C, so A B C all the way through Z. So it started to get a theme, started to be an A through Z theme, from accountability all the way to zone, which is creating your systems, getting in your zone. And it's been a tremendous experience. I mean, we got sales in 11 countries now. I only released it a few months ago. We got sales in 11 countries. It's a bestseller. It's bestseller already. I've already been notified that I'm a candidate for multiple book awards. It's just been really a tremendous experience, and I'm really happy to be here to share it with you.
Yeah, that's so awesome. Actually, you bring up a really good point because part of the thing that intrigued me was when I went and looked up your book on Amazon. You have like a solid 68 five-star review, and reviews do a lot, right? It's kind of like your neighbor telling you or your best friend being like, "Hey, I really recommend this." And so I was like, I really got to dig deeper. And congratulations. Oh my gosh, like that's super awesome. Like where it's going, there's absolutely a need for the a second book and a third book. So that series is really cool. And it just hit me like while you're talking about all of this, that it's not just, letters, like long letters you're writing, it's the letters of the alphabet. Like that is super cool. I
Yeah.
love the wordplay there. I think that's super awesome. I hand letters, so I appreciate like like the letters and how they're crafted, like just in themselves. But it is really interesting how you mentioned too, as you're writing it out, like, what am I doing here? Like, what am I trying to get at? Because a lot of times with the things that we do in life, or even as we're trying to find our life trajectory, it's like, what is my purpose? Like, what is the point of doing this?
Yeah.
And I love that it was all laid out beautifully and you were able to put it into words the way that you did so that we can all share that with you. One of the questions that I have for you is what letter was the hardest for you to write? What did you feel going through that letter that you felt more of than the other letters? Was there one?
Ooh, yeah, that's they were all, it's a great question. They were all 26 letters and really, and times three. Each one of them has been really difficult and challenging and soul searching. But I would say the one I struggled with the most in book one was probably gratitude. I think that G, A through Z, G is gratitude. And I was guilty, I think of many of us were guilty, is that I was always like just dwelling on the trials and tribulations of the past or the anxiety associated with the future. And I really wasn't present. I wasn't as present in the blessings that I have today. So I think that the one of the more transformational letters for me that really brought me more present in my life and not only my life, but in my wife and my children and my friends. I'm a better husband. I'm a better father. I'm a better friend, better person, for going through that experience. And through this writing this book series, I think gratitude really came to the forefront. And what I learned through that whole process is that gratitude is the most transformational emotion that a human can experience, or at least that I've gone to experience, because it puts you not only present, but it puts you in a scenario where you accept the fact that you have everything you need and nothing that you don't, right? That you're in a state of abundance. You're fine where you are today, right? Do you want more? Do you have goals? Do you have expectations? Sure, I have aggressive goals, which I can elaborate on, but I still have taught myself through this process to be in a perpetual state of gratitude for the blessings that I have today. So I think I really struggled with that, but the way I've written it and shared with the reader has been very well received, and it's one of the favorite letters that people comment on. So I would have to I'd have to say that one, but they were all hard. Each letter was
Oh,
difficult.
yeah. I mean, that was really good. I love how you encapsulated everything. It's like, okay, well, we're done. The conversation is there. You got what you came for, like gratitude. It really,
Yeah.
I love that you tied that too with presence because I mean that's the purpose of life, period, right? Is being able to be present in the moment, especially with so many distractions nowadays. I can't imagine you not having already had that conversation about how this next generation is dealing with all of these distractions that pulls them away from themselves. So obviously it's going to pull them away from all of the other connections and relationships in their lives. So how are you navigating that process with more of the digital distractions and then of course integrating AI into all of that? Like are you allowing and teaching your children how to utilize AI? Is that incorporated in your lives at all? Like, or are you limiting it, or are they not having access to that altogether?
Yeah, well, we homeschool our kids from a personal note, and they're now teenagers, right? So it's taken a while to bring this. I had never intended to release. I literally wrote all this for my children, and it has been so well received by those that I shared it with, because friends and family are like, "What are you working on? You're really, you're really interested." And I shared it with them, and they convinced me to bring it to market. So, yeah, we're a low tech family as far as they don't have iPads, they don't have their distractions, and we homeschool, so we can kind of control. My wife and I homeschool them, or most of my wife homeschools them, and so there's a control component there for the technology, and I think especially when they're the studies have shown, I've read many studies, when those that are 12 or even 14 and younger, they're just not mentally developed yet to be able to handle that constant stimulation. However, with AI, I'm absolutely brought my kids into the fold 100% with all critical aspects of AI for their career and their path because it's a reality, like it or not, it's here. And I've said, I spent with my you only know me about as an author, but I spent 3 decades as a executive in technology, high tech technology. So I was a CEO of several software companies. I've been VP level, mostly vice president of sales in some of the largest technology companies that are out there, Fortune 10 companies. So I understand this technology better than most. And there is truly this AI tsunami is barreling at us. I mean, it's kind of here a little bit, but we only got a taste of it so far. It's just gonna keep coming at us over and over again. And there's such displacement that for those that don't adapt to AI, you can put your head in the sand. You can kind of like hope it goes away or convince yourself it's not going to impact your career. But if you're in any position at all, the humanities, something that's process oriented or research oriented, I'm sorry, but you're susceptible to radical change in that career and potentially just obsolete. That career might just go away. So I spent a lot of time with my kids embracing AI, and I encourage them to just immerse themselves in and bathe themselves in AI and become an assistant, an AI assistant to them, and you leverage it for what the power that it has, and transition their minds away from some kind of process oriented career path and more of being more creative, right? Being more creative and something that's leveraging their unique human skills, which I elaborate on. Letter X is X factor. Is I make a contention in the book that everyone has at least three, and often 5 or 10, but at least three natural gifts that are very human oriented, right? And identifying those three plus gifts that you have and combining them into one potent formula, one potent solution is the path. So I talk about that in great detail with an X, which is your X factor, but also I have C is career, like A through Z chapters. C is career, and I talk about the C8 principle. And the C8 principle is basically eight different principles. They all start with C, but they're heavy on critical thinking, creativity, addressing complexity, conscientiousness, bringing that human nature component to it, collaboration with AI and humans and technology. So the changes that are underway with AI are unprecedented. I mean, we haven't seen a technology or an invention, this fundamentally changing since fire. Like this is like the ultimate change, and I've lived it for 3 decades. So I encourage your listeners to embrace it. Maybe take a look at my career advice on how to pivot. And a lot of things that I focus on is getting out of the employee mindset, right? Instead of just being an earner, be a learner, right? Be learning how to do it. And I focus a lot on entrepreneurship. And a word that I made up, but it works, is entrepreneurship. So an entrepreneur we all know what that is, someone that starts a business and owns the business, owns the pros and the cons of it. You get all the rewards, but you get all the risk too. And that's entrepreneurship. And I've been an entrepreneur, most of my life. But entrepreneurship is the same on taking that same entrepreneur mindset, but internally, right? An internal entrepreneur within an organization. So another way of looking at it is an entrepreneur, you can focus on creating something new, right? Or you can be an entrepreneur and reinvent something old. Come into like an old process and bring in AI technology and do it better, smarter, more efficiently. So I talk a lot about in the book about adjusting your career and your earning potential because I'm really concerned. Frankly, about society as a whole, because most people think of their job as a income source, right? And it is, right? That's how you make money, right? Well, you get that. But I think most jobs or most people, their jobs are beyond income, but it's really their meaning, right? It's their identity. It's what they can relate to. So when AI displaces these jobs and ultimately eliminates careers, I'm very concerned that a lot of people won't be able to make the adjustment. They'll lose that meaning in their life. And now is the time to make the change because the changes are coming. It's unavoidable. So I spent quite a bit of detail leveraging my 30 plus years of corporate experience in both entrepreneurial in corporate America, but also entrepreneurial. And I hope that's a great value for your listeners.
Yeah, I mean, that in itself was really in depth and I love the explanation. But especially you also gave solutions too. So a couple of things that I want to cover in these letters is one is yes, their AI will absolutely be more immersive in our lives, but we have the power to bring out our humanity to support us in whatever it is that we choose, whether it be career or just in life in general. Their
Yeah.
AI cannot take that over. I also love that you didn't limit yourself, right? Just because a letter is this word doesn't mean I can't expand and go into lots of other words that also start with the same letter that carry just as important of a meaning.
Yeah.
So see, it's such a great one, but also knowing your extensive experience in being a CEO and running these businesses and then taking that step and trusting yourself to follow the path that has a more intentional meaning for your life and how you are meant to change the world takes a
Mhm.
lot of courage. Another C letter word. But that it brings a really nice transition because you're absolutely right. A lot of people are tied to their jobs because of the value that it brings in the money that it brings into their lives that keeps their lives running and going. And sometimes they get lost in that identity of what they do. It becomes who they are. So when that is disconnected, they lose themselves oftentimes and they don't know where to go or what to do. And the truth is, in something that you can pick up in the book, is the X factor, like you said. What does make you human? Reconnect with what makes you different. And it go again, it touches to the creativity and the presence. All of that cannot be replaced by AI. So how can you incorporate that in your life so that you're not tied to any one thing or any one situation to really identify who you are? Every single human is just so robust and we're so dynamic. There's so much to us. I know you from your book, right? Like I have that insight. But outside of that, I don't know the perspective of you as a husband. I don't know your perspective as a leader as a whole, right? I don't know your perspective as a parent in terms of how you parent in every life situation. So there's so much more to you than we see. Even if anyone were to watch every single one of your podcast conversations, if they read all of your books. And that's to say, like with any human, no matter how much or how little they're out there, we can never have a grasp of all of it. And so AI can understand a lot, but they cannot recreate us. And so as long as we stay connected to ourselves and our humanity and staying present, again, I think that's just so important. Um,
Yeah.
like there will be opportunities and there are opportunities and you can create your own opportunities. But to move from that, but still a little bit tied to it is like you did take your own opportunity. You had really successful careers in the corporate sphere, but you stepped away to be able to really share these letters. That had to have been scary. I mean,
Yeah.
because that's a big change in so many ways. Can you really elaborate on when you decided that you were going to go all in? Where did you start out going all in, or was it a transition phase, right? Like, can you walk us through how you made that change from corporate into I'm really owning this entrepreneurship process? And then the second part of the question is, were you concerned at all how your children were going to look at that? So, how did that transition happen? And then what did you think about how your children were going to take it?
Yeah, wow, yeah, that's it's quite a story. It's a great question. And to try to sum it up, I mean, I came from. It's important to understand kind of where I came from. So even though I live in Colorado and have for quite a while now, I grew up in Boston, the first generation American kid. Both my parents are from Ireland. I grew up in a very you would think I grew up in Ireland. It was completely immersed in the Irish culture, which was wonderful, hardworking, wonderful people, and it was a blessing. But it was a very extremely blue collar environment, and there was a scarcity mindset, right? That that they were just plumbers and electricians and wonderful people, but they that expectations never went any further than that. But I wanted more. I wanted to live a life of abundance, not scarcity. So I always had that burning desire in me that was more natural. So when I got my first job at 19, I was almost 20 years old, fixing computers at Fidelity Investments. I was studying electrical engineering, and I got a job opportunity and quit my full time and finished my undergrad and my master's degree part time at night. But I started working. I was just fixing computers at Fidelity in downtown Boston, and I did that for 6.5 years. And then I transitioned into a sales role. So at Fidelity, I was an engineer, and I would see countless sales teams come in and talk about how their latest and greatest technology was the right solution, and they were just missing the mark completely. So I transitioned into sales, and I ultimately transitioned out of being an engineer and back office engineer into a sales role as a sales engineer. And that was the pivotal part. That's what brought me out to Colorado, the first job opportunity. And and I was able to ride that wave. So yes, I was able to pivot from an engineer mindset to more of a third party customer. And then that morphed into VP of sales, sales, VP of sales, CEO level positions over decades. So that was hard. That was a hard transition, but I'm still, working for companies. But I had that burning desire for entrepreneurship, and I remember the day. I'll never forget it. January 1st of 2000, I quit my job, and I was already building a software company on the side, and we started to get customers who started to have momentum. And boom, off we went, and we went from a concept that I had to $3.8 million in the first 18 months. And then 9/11 hit. And then 9/11 hit, right? And the economy just stopped for a better part of 2 years. No corporations were buying. And ultimately, I sold that company to a large technology household name company. It's under NDA, but I sold that. I had a graceful exit, but talk about pivoting, right? So that 9/11 really just crushed us. We got through it, but we sold it for a fraction of what it would have been worth if 9/11 didn't happen. So that was, even though it was a win because it ended, but that was a heartbreaker. And then, but I dusted myself up, picked myself up, dusted myself off, came back at it again, and I tried and failed at countless different businesses while I was had a strong W-2 working for various corporations at different levels. And one of the probably the biggest pivot I made is real estate investing. In 2008, the entire subprime mortgage crisis came in, and the time to buy was really late 2010, 2011. Then I just pivoted and I just started going crazy, and I bought lots and lots of real estate assets. So I built this real estate empire that allowed me to have monthly cash flow that I no longer had to work again, right? I had to work at all. And then I pivoted from that. I started my own bank, my own private lending company from there. So I'm leveraging the capital. And now another venture is this Life Letters, writing this book and being on these podcasts. So I have pivoted many times, but I want to get the message across really clear to your listeners is that I have failed 10 times more than I had successes. I could focus on those four successes, but, we could spend an hour talking about my failures. I failed and tried and failed, started and failed multiple different software companies, multiple different businesses outside of that. So I guess the message I'm trying to get across to your listeners is keep trying, keep going there and pushing the limit. I mean, the nice thing is, the encouraging thing is, you only have to get it right once when it comes to entrepreneurship, right? Like I got it really right when that real estate business, and there's since have other businesses that have scaled. But just stay with it. You can hit your financial freedom goals by getting it right once. Will you have to stumble and mumble your way, to get there? Yeah, absolutely. But stick with it. And entrepreneurship is the path, especially in this AI age where there's, to my opinion, there's virtually no job security left with modern technology coming at us so fast. And not only just AI, but robotics as well as a game changer. And then you get a nanotechnology and quantum computing coming behind it. So there's radical changes happening. And I think a big part of it is I'd like people to start thinking less like a consumer, and be able to be more of a creator. So, like most people just get up every day and they just consume. They consume social media, they consume gaming, they consume, everything every day, but they're not leveraging their creativity, their creative brain, and that's entrepreneurship or intrapreneurship, internal entrepreneurship. So pivoting from a consumer to a creator is something I strongly advise, and I talk about it in great detail throughout my book.
Yeah, and you are the perfect person to talk about it, right? Like in general in life, we can say a lot of different things, but it's really in the practice of these things that people tend to follow, right? And not just it in what you do in your career and in your job, but as a parent. One of the things I've really found is I used to try to teach my kids so many things, so many different values, and it wasn't something I was reflecting in my own actions. And it caused so much frustration because I would be like, oh, that's not what we teach them. But I didn't stop to look at myself nearly as often to say, is it something that I'm practicing? So you can say so much, but if you're not putting it into practice, it's not nearly as valuable. So I would love to understand your how you were able to bring in your leadership in the people that you manage, the businesses that you manage, and how did that intertwine with the way that you led your children? Because there are a lot of values that interlace, right? But then there's just different ways in communicating with people that you work with, and it's different in the way that you communicate with your children, but there are things that are foundational to your relationships with other humans in general. Have you found a couple of things that you just feel like this is wonderful in terms of leadership, no matter how you're guiding, if you're guiding as a parent or as a business owner, a CEO, when you're sharing directives and things like that, what are the foundations of clear communication and guidance?
Yeah, no, that's a wonderful question. Well, there's a reason that the first chapter or chapter A of the A through Z is accountability. And I wrestled with this when I was writing this book series because I actually have three different A's, right? For the other book two and book three. But without a doubt, without hesitation, I led with A is accountability, the for chapter one or letter one. And the reason is it all starts with personal accountability. So when it comes to teaching my children or being a leader of a business, I look to those that have complete personal accountability in all aspects of it. They don't point the finger. They're not blaming Susie or Johnny or whoever. They're taking personal accountability. I dropped the ball. I made a mistake. I won't make that mistake again. So I drill that home to my children over and over again because that's the most fundamental part of success. If you're not willing to be 100% responsible for not only your actions, but your inactions, right? So most people get wrapped up in like, oh, I didn't do that. I sat back and I'm not accountable because I wasn't involved in that. I didn't jump in. Well, that's inaction, right?
Yeah.
Most people focus on like, well, I didn't take that action, so I'm not accountable. Well, you also had chose to make, for inaction, right? You didn't get involved. You didn't help the situation. You weren't proactive. So I think the fundamental lesson for everyone out there, young and old, is personal accountability, and that's the basis of a life of success. And because the whole premise of this book is about, again, I'll kind of pull it up again, but the whole premise is about following the yellow brick road, if you will, right? They follow the yellow brick road that are all made up of the letters to get to your highest self. Now, so what's your highest self? The highest self is different for everyone. The nice thing about this book is I don't try to tell you what your highest self is. Your definition, Nin, is as of your highest self might be quite different than mine or anyone else that's listening. But what I do is give you a master plan, a roadmap to how to get there. It starts with accountability. That's step one is accountability, right? So you have to be accountable for your actions and your inactions. But ultimately, to get to your highest self, is unique to each individual. Now, I can tell you what my highest self is, and I live it, and that's why I'm just a delirious. I wake up, I bounce out of bed every morning and ready to take on the world because it took decades for me to define and execute and accomplish my highest self. That has to do with the wealth, wisdom, and happiness features. That's the three primary subjects that are addressed within the 26 letters: wealth, wisdom, and happiness. And a lot of people focus on like, well, if I just spend all my time on wealth, all I care about is getting wealthy. I just want to focus it, but they're not focused on the wisdom, the psychology associated with success, personal and financial success, and they're not focused on the happiness component. So I make a strong argument within the book that to live your optimal lifestyle design, to be able to live your best life, to reach your highest self, involves three components: wealth, financial freedom; the wisdom associated with psychology and understanding, yourself and others; and then ultimately getting to happiness. So all three of them kind of come together, but it starts with accountability.
Oh, I love that really thorough answer. And that actually brings me to how I want to wrap this up and really want to understand how you share this, because one of the important things in what you do is wisdom transfer, which I find really fascinating, because I haven't heard about it in that way before. Wisdom isn't used as often when we talk about personal growth and like generational aspects, like what we learn and how we carry on from generation to generation. So what does wisdom transfer mean to you, and how are you implementing that with what your work entails?
Yeah, no, it's a great question because that is the basis of the book. So I guess first and foremost, um, I wrote this book series, but I'm one guy with one life experience, right? I don't have all the answers. I haven't seen the world from your eyes or anyone else that's listening to us right now. So we all have wisdom and knowledge that we've built up over our lifetimes, right? So I'm doing the best I can to transfer my wisdom, my experiences across wealth, wisdom, and happiness, right? Those three primary topics for the benefit of the reader, right? But one guy, one life, one story. But I'm a huge proponent of the fact that everyone has wisdom to share, but we're lacking a way to share it, right? More times than not, you got the older generations that, the younger generations won't listen to them, their kids or their grandkids, right? They're just, what is grandpa doesn't know or dad doesn't know. Parents never know anything until the kids are about 25. And then all of a sudden your parents are smart, right? Magically, right? So they don't listen, right? And then the young don't take the time to tap the knowledge of the old. And next thing you know, they pass away. And I write about that in great detail. My grandfather in Ireland, a farmer in Ireland, had a massive impact on my life. He was a mountain of a man. He was sat down with me. He gave me so much sage advice. And I deeply regret when he passed away at 20 years old that I didn't leverage the access that I had to him when I would go spend quite a bit of time in Ireland with him. So I missed that, right? And he was a big inspiration for this creation of what we call the wisdom transfer platform. So, being a 30-year veteran of IT, I created the first of its kind platform, and you can find it on our website at thelifeletters.com. It's WTP, or Wisdom Transfer Platform, and the whole premise is giving the first social media platform. You can think of it more like a Reddit, like a shared information. It's structured very much like Reddit. But it's a wisdom transfer platform to allow everyone of any age or stage to share their wisdom, their experiences. Now, it could be a direct experience. Here's a story I've gone through I want to share, or here's a specific, bullet that I want, like a little line that I want to say, or like something to think about. Or it could even just be a quote that was impactful, or a poem that was impactful on your song, lyrics of a songs that are going to be impactful to you. So it's an opportunity for everyone to share their wisdom, their unique knowledge for the benefit of society at all ages and stages. So I encourage everyone to, it's free. And I encourage everyone to please, take a look at our book, at the Life Letters, but also go to our website and join the Wisdom Transfer platform. All it requires is an email address, so we know how to send you the information. And join us and start sharing your wisdom for the benefit of all of society.
Wow. And I'm so honored to have had this conversation with you. This was my first interview from Podmatch in a long time. And so I really want to thank you for taking the time out to be here, for just being awesome and living out what you are passing on, right? And you're fully embodying that. And I feel like so many people struggle with what do I desire out of life and how do I get there? But it really starts with identifying one thing and really living that one thing before you start identifying more. And I just, I'm so grateful that you're living out your desired life and being your best self. It's just there's not enough of us doing that. Again, there's so much that the scarcity mindset, the being scared of failure, just all of the fears that hold us back can be put to the side as long as we try, as long as we take action, we implement what you have shared in the first of the book series. And then when the next comes out, and then the one that comes out in the following year, I'm just like, I've been so inspired by everything that you've shared, and I really do
Thank you.
want to share more of what you're creating with the people who are listening. So I'll be leaving those links down below. If you want to connect with Ed and his mission, thelifeletters.com is the website to go to. And there are social media channels that I will also link down below. Is there anything else, Ed, that you would like to leave the listeners with, just because the world right now is, there are a lot of really rough patches in many different ways. So how do we move forward without feeling like we're being, or without feeling guilt from
Yeah.
moving forward in a positive way, and then just doing it in a way that is better for ourselves, but also a better way to share it with the people around us? Like, how do we
Yeah.
move forward, well?
Well, yeah, no, I think frankly, I think you need a master plan. Yeah, I think you need a roadmap, right, if you will. And I feel confident that I provide that roadmap for those that are interested to get to their highest self, to reach their highest self through optimal lifestyle design. So take a gander at the book. Again, Nin said it's the lifeletters.com, THE lifeletters.com. But on there also, I mentioned the Wisdom Transfer platform. I encourage those to transfer that. But we also have a free newsletter that comes out every other week. It's basically the second and fourth Wednesday of every month, and it's called 3 Minutes to Wealth, Wisdom, and Happiness, and it's enhancements to the messages of the book. That too comes out A through Z, and every a new letter every 2 weeks, and it's an enhancement to the existing stories because I'm getting so much feedback from all over the world of people and like how the book has impacted them, and I'm like, oh, I need to fill this gap, or I need to try to proactively answer these questions that are coming in from these 5-star reviews we're getting from everywhere. So I encourage those to take a peek at the book, join our free newsletter. Join our free wisdom transfer platform. We're in the near term, we're going to be releasing our own daily app or daily reminder app on staying positive to go through that roadmap, and a podcast. We're going to release our own podcast here later this year called the Life Letters podcast. And I encourage everyone to take a gander. That would be me interviewing experts like Nin and other people and just talking about each and one letter at a time, and we'll find the foremost experts on each of the A through.
Thank you so much for joining this episode of Creating Connections with myself and Ed McCarthy on the Life Letters. That was so inspirational and valuable for me. I hope that it was for you. If it was, please hit subscribe and share this episode with someone else that you know and love who might be able to pick up a thing or two from the episode. If we're not already connected on social media, please find me. I'd love to know your thoughts. Anything that we can add, anything that you feel like we can do to better support where you are in life so that you can really fully live out your best self in parenting, in business, in whatever it is that you're experiencing, I would love to hear and to know. Until the next episode, if you enjoyed this, if you are interested in picking up a book, again, anywhere on Amazon, the Life Letters. But if you would like to win a copy of Ed's book, I will be giving away a copy if you just comment on any platform about what you found inspirational on this episode. So wherever I'm sharing it, if you find me, just send a comment. I found this inspirational, or I really loved this about the episode. You will be entered to win a copy of the book. Thank you so much again for joining, and I look forward to seeing you again very soon.